everybody, it's your girl, Coach Crystal. Welcome to another installment of Wisdom Wednesdays. First of all, I hope you've had an amazing week and that this midpoint gives you enough energy and steam to get through the rest of the days. Listen, if you're just joining us and you're new to the Steps and Stages community, we're going to welcome you in like we welcome our clients into each and every one of our sessions with our Steps and Stages mantra that just says a lot of things happen before this, and I guarantee a lot of things are going to happen after this, but I promise to be here with you now. Please be here with me now. Be here with us now. Tonight, you're in for a treat. I mean, every week is a treat, right? Like we've had million-dollar coaches, marketing experts, wealth managers, everything you need to build a life by design. And so I want you to understand that by being a part of the Steps and Stages community, we want to connect you not only with your vision and your intrinsic intuition, but the tools and strategies that help you build a foundation for building a life by design. Tonight, we're going to talk to Dr. RJ. Now, the topic for tonight, and I just want to bring this out so that you can get your questions ready. Tonight, we're going to talk about burnout. Now, some of you might say, well, child, I've been burnt out. I just keep going. I keep pushing through it. Or, I burnt out of my first career and I started another one. Or this kind of cycle of not engaging with your true gifts and talents that keep you from being in collaboration and alignment with your vision. Tonight, we're going to talk to RJ, Dr. RJ. She is an expert in burnout, but also a licensed clinical therapist, someone who not only embodies a multiple set of skills, but has also created some really distinct boundaries for herself, her practice, and her life. So let's welcome Dr. RJ to the Steps and Stages Wisdom Wednesday stage. Dr. RJ, welcome. How are you?
Hello. I am energized, excited to be here.
Love it. Dr. RJ, in your own words, just tell everybody who you are.
Well, you did such an amazing job introducing me. So I'll just add that in addition to being a licensed clinical psychologist and an executive coach, I'm also a wife and a mom, and I juggle a whole lot of things. So when we talk about burnout, listen, I know, been there, done that. Literally wrote the book.
Yeah, literally wrote the book. We're going to talk about that later, y'all, because if you want to get a copy of the book, we're going to tell you how to get it. As always, if there are questions, comments, concerns, nonviolent disagreements, please drop those in the comments section and we will get right into that. Let's just start from the beginning, because I think sometimes we feel like as people, as executives, as professionals, that burnout is not what we're actually in. We think we're actually working hard, right? We think we're actually doing our due diligence. Dr. RJ, tell us a little bit about the boundary or the border between doing too much and losing yourself.
Absolutely. That's an amazing question. So the thing about burnout, right? It generally happens to high performers. And the set point for high performers is always up here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just from the very beginning, from when we're winning the spelling bees and we're at the top of our class and all of those things, the bar is set high. So when we enter the workforce, we set the bar high for ourselves, and we get into this perfectionism. And if that does not happen, then we overwork. And
Right.
that starts the cycle of burnout.
Yeah, this is great. Okay, we're bringing up some keywords here from the beginning, y'all. Perfectionism. In our community, we just call it a pretty word for fear. Could be fear of failure, could be fear of not hitting the mark. But when we're talking about high achievers, maybe you've been in every situation functioning at 98%, right? Your 98% could literally be someone else's 200%, but you're not recognizing the delineation between you and them. Dr. RJ, how do we actually think about calibration?
Yes. So especially high performers, we require a constant calibration. And when I say constant, I mean throughout the day, a daily calibration of reminding ourselves that I am enough, right? We're often judged by our ability, by our natural ability instead of our effort. And then that leads into all kinds of things that we can talk about another time. But the main thing is just to have a constant calibration throughout the day.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you just brought up is another one of those things that gets so intertwined that people don't know the difference between their ability and their effort.
Yes, 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 absolutely. So natural ability, like you said, is the 98%. It's how we show up. You know, the whole thing about I am the table, right? We
Mhm,
are the
mhm,
table. So we
mhm.
show up as the table. We don't realize how much of that is effort. So we're naturally gifted, naturally talented, and we don't give ourselves credit for the work that has been put in on a consistent basis that has allowed us to be in the spaces we're in.
Yeah.
When we discredit ourselves, then that starts all that negative self talk and the I'm not good enough
Mhm.
issues.
Yeah, that's a good, right? So let me just break this down for y'all because I think a lot of you may be like, well, I work hard because I can and it's my gift and right. Let me just break this down on a personal level for you. I've been dancing for over 30 years. The amount of effort I've put in for 30 years brings me to the stage as the table,
Yes.
right? So much of what we're doing is pretending with ourselves that every time we enter a new situation, we're back at zero. Experts don't start at zero. Tables don't grow legs by themselves, right? That's not the scenario. Dr. RJ, how, again, when we think about the investment in getting to a certain level of efficiency, proficiency, how do we then go back and allow ourselves not to coast or be lazy, but to really own the place we're in?
Absolutely. So I think when we think about our effort, our investment,
Mhm.
we go back to some of that childhood self talk. Well, that's what you're supposed to do.
Ah,
And
uh-huh.
that's what we're saying to ourselves. Every time we achieve a goal and the next goal and the next goal, we have this little a bit of a self talk saying, well, that's what you're supposed to do anyway.
Mm-hmm,
And that
mm-hmm.
chips away at our I guess the culmination of everything we've done to work towards to get to the point where we are.
Yeah.
So effort is definitely a part in it. And I think the way that we make sure we're talking about effort and thinking about effort is through celebrating every single win. Every
Mm.
single win.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, I'm just going to take this into, something that I know we can relate to mama, right?
Yeah.
Because the self-talk doesn't just get there. Right? I mean, I didn't come from a family that was hugging you and kissing you and giving you high fives every time you did something right. So I thought when I was winning, that's what I was supposed to do, right? That's my normal. So how now, knowing what you know, being a professional in basically how minds work, Dr. RJ, how do you start to feed your children's minds in a way that counters that negative self-talk?
Oh, that it's tough,
Yeah.
right? And so even as a psychologist, I still fall into that whole that's what you're supposed to do. I mean,
Mhm.
you're my kids, of course you're supposed to make straight A's, duh,
Right,
right?
right,
And so
right.
it's an intentional daily effort
Yeah.
to remember like things need to be praised. Praise does not make us complacent, right? Now, if you're complacent, you're going to be complacent.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when well, I won't say that, but it's kind of like when people assume that one thing equals another.
Yeah.
And so, but that's not the case. Praise does not equal complacency. That's an
Mhm.
old value that has been spread through generations.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And we have to let that go.
Mhm.
Praise equals this is amazing. And what's next?
Yes. Yes. Right. So praise can equal support,
Yeah,
whereas sometimes we've gotten into the mantra that praise equals good enough and that challenge will make you better.
absolutely.
Right. Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Right. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Right. But let's just think about it. When we think about executives and people of, um, you know, great gifts, um, we kind of thrive on challenges.
Yes.
Right? So again, how do we kind of like pull this back and go, wait, am I making this hard for myself? Am I making it harder so that I can feel like I'm working so that my effort gets more praise? Or can I get as much out of this scenario with my 98%?
I think it's a whole reframe. So the next
Mm,
challenge is reframing our thoughts and remembering that rest is work. Rest is productivity. We have it all out of whack. We forget that our brains require rest. our brains require a nightly reset in order to be more productive. And it's kind of like we're tricked into thinking the more we do, the more we're running, we're getting things done. And really, we're just operating at 20% when our ability is 98% because we're exhausted.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Rest is real work. It's not the thing you do after work. It is a part of the cycle, just like when your food has to be digested, ingested, expert. Think about your day and your time doing the same thing. What have we taken in? How have we digested? How have we made it a part of our practice? And then how do we give ourselves time to action? You said something earlier, Dr. RJ, that's key. Every day is a reframe.
Yes.
We have to be clear that we're choosing to do and be something else.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think, we take from an old Buddhist philosophy here that says in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. The experts, there are few. When we get to this level of expertise, professionalism, proficiency, we start to lose our thought about what's possible. And that's where I think the perfectionism and the failure come in. Your thoughts?
Yes. So perfectionism, according to Brene Brown, who I absolutely agree with, perfectionism is rooted in shame. It's rooted in shame. So there's something behind it that says, what will they think if I'm not at the top? If I don't do this presentation the way that it's supposed to, if I don't win this contract, if I don't place number one in this competition, what will they think? Now,
Yeah.
there's a difference between perfectionism and healthy striving. I'm all for healthy striving, Dr. Crystal. I'm all for it because that's what high performers do. We strive, we challenge ourselves because healthy striving is about, well, what do I think? How can I challenge myself? It has nothing to do with the shame that comes along with what will they think. And that's how you can check
Yeah.
yourself on a daily basis when something is occurring. Is it about me staying in my own lane, running in my own lane, swimming in my own lane, or is it about the people who are looking? What do they think?
That's good. That's good, right? Because ultimately, those eyes from the outside can't change the process from the inside.
Right.
They can only just kind of keep a certain. If you're just joining us, we're talking to Dr. RJ about burnout. We are ideas and the efficiency of high performers, right? Like people who can do great and amazing things, but at the same time, sometimes limit their capacity to grow as individuals. And RJ, when have you seen something or someone become their own roadblock, right, in relation to?
Generally, as we talk about burnout, it really is us. Now, I'm not a victim blamer, right? Because of course we know that there are things that happen to us that can add to burnout. However, we're usually the main culprit. It's our thoughts. It's how we think people perceive us. It's how we push ourselves beyond what's realistic. It's how we relate to others. It's how we create a story in our heads about something that may not even be happening.
Wow.
So that is how we kind of get to this point of burnout. Again, there are things in place that can add to it, but we're the ones who can put an end to it. We can set boundaries. We can build ourselves up so that we're ready to face anything that the day has to bring us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. One of the guiding quotes we've been using as a community this year, Dr. RJ, is that you are only as strong as your readiness to surrender, right? And when you think about burnout, I think some people think that they've surrendered to the work in front of them. Like, well, this is what I gotta do. This is what I'm supposed to do. But how does that surrender to I guess what I'm saying, the real identity you want to create, how does that become the strength to create these boundaries that you're talking about?
Well, often as high performers, we are afraid to be something other than what we're good at, right?
Mm,
Our
yes.
identity is our job.
Yeah.
And that isn't healthy. It's comfortable,
Yeah.
right? Because it's easy,
Yeah.
because we're naturally talented, but it's not healthy. We're healthiest when we're whole. And so the way to deal with that, to be the readiness to surrender, has to do with being whole as it relates to preventing burnout. What
Mhm.
other parts of you are lacking? And I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I love to work. I could work 24/7. It's my safe space. I love what I do. I'm on. It's my spiritual gift, all of that. However, that's just not realistic.
Yeah.
And so I have to push myself and challenge myself to do other things. We get comfortable thinking just because we're working that it's productive, that it's
Mhm.
something good, but then we overdo it and then we don't progress.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Okay. If you were just joining us, y'all, this is Dr. RJ. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesdays. Welcome to the Steps and Stages family. Tonight we're talking about burnout, and we've gotten to a point in the conversation where we're addressing high performing people who have great gifts and talents, but who then absorb their work as their identity, right? That's where you're joining us. If you've conflated your identity and your gifts into your whole self, then we want to just detangle that a little bit and find a true value system for being whole, for addressing all of your gifts and talents, but also addressing your humanity, addressing your desires, and seeing the blind spots where you might be able to grow into a more freer, fuller version of yourself. So we're just talking about this. I'm a recovering workaholic. And like it's every day is recovery day. Like I feel like I'm in a 12-step program, right? I have to be like, wait, you have a child, go talk to him, right?
Yes,
Just be clear, y'all. Let's be clear. Like
absolutely.
right, there's absolute honesty here. The other part of that is most of the things that I do are the things I love to do.
Mhm.
Right? And so that's also hard. You may have heard this before when we've talked to a couple guests on Wisdom Wednesdays. A lot of people know me as a dancer. And, that's all fine and good, but it's not the only thing I do, right? And it's not the thing I do most anymore. Dr. RJ, when we get our identity tangled up with other people's expectations of us and deny the next evolution of ourselves, I mean, that sounds like a recipe for burnout, right? Because the denial and the over execution just creates a firestorm.
Definitely. And that firestorm is called cynicism.
Yes,
That's the
yes.
firestorm.
Mhm.
And that tears us down. It fosters depression, it
Yeah.
fosters anxiety, it
Mhm.
fosters self-doubt. And I love that you described it as a firestorm because that's exactly what it is. And then what happens is everything else feeds into it and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger
Oh, yeah.
until you're numb. And so when I hear my clients say they're feeling numb,
Mhm.
that's what has happened.
Yeah.
Generally, there's some sort of cynicism from all of this buildup of allowing ourselves to be measured by other people,
Oh, yeah.
and then we don't live up to what they expect or what they see all the time, or we
Mhm.
think we don't live up. We may live
Mhm.
up to it, but
Mhm.
our
Mhm.
thoughts are telling us not good enough, not good enough. It's a firestorm for sure.
Yeah. Y'all, this is big. I mean, I hope y'all heard that because we live in a state of cynicism, right? This idea that everything is negative, nothing is going to come to fruition the way that we see it, the vision in our head is impossible, and that we are not good enough is a firestorm for regret, disappointment, perfectionism, shame, and fear, right?
Mhm.
We have to really be so clear with ourselves. I'm going to say it, aka the vision coach. We have to be so clear about our visions of ourselves that they can't be disturbed or distorted by what we think other people are seeing. Because ultimately, Dr. RJ said it earlier, we're actually the ones cultivating our own self-image, right? And
Yes.
as we're cultivating that self-image, it's up to us to here's the dancer in me, perform it. Like, it's your life is the stage, right? Like, what do you want them to see? And not in a false way, but like, how do we live up to our own integrity? Dr. RJ, how do you see cynicism being dismantled in our lives?
Well, part of it is starting with, just like you said, how do we want to show up in the world every single day? And
Mm-hmm.
that requires intentionality. It may change from time to time. So, for example, as a recovered perfectionist
Yeah.
and anxiety ridden mom, I said I wanted to show up in the world as calm, right? I
Ah,
want to be
uh-huh.
calm. I don't want to be like swayed with the wind, and every motion, has me frazzled. And if I forget not a car seat because my kids are teenagers, but
Uh-huh.
back in the day, things like that
Yeah.
that happened, it would rattle me. And so I got to a point saying I wanted to be calm. Well, in order for that to happen, I had to be intentional every single day, every chance I got to show up as that person. So we
Mm-hmm.
dismantle cynicism by being intentional of using every moment we have to show up as the person we like to be.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. There's a user from LinkedIn who says it's difficult to not get caught up in defining self by what one does. Totally agree.
It is difficult.
Very difficult, right? We're not saying it's easy, but we are saying that there is a real freedom in allowing yourself to name yourself first before other people name you for what you do, right?
Yes.
Because ultimately we are human beings, not human doings, right? And so we want to be sure that the being of us is rising to the occasion of evolution, and the doing of us is not getting caught in the pattern or the trap of burnout, right?
Yes.
Because we
Yes.
can do so much, right? Um, Great comment. Great comment. Listen, Dr. RJ, we're again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about burnout, y'all. We're talking about perfectionism. We're talking about high performing people being high striving people, right? Striving to not just survive, but to thrive within their gifts in a holistic way. In our community, Dr. RJ, we look at these different sections of your life: your time and money freedom, your love and relationships, your vocari, that we like to call it, your gift and calling rather than your vocation, right? And the way that we want to define health and wellness, right? So when we look at those four quadrants, we're basically trying to touch each area of our lives and find a place where we want to grow. When you are seeing people who have been addressing burnout or on the verge of burnout, where do you mostly see them go first to try to fix the problem?
Uh Generally to their physicians.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens from what I see, it's something like, ooh, I got to check up and my blood work is off, or my blood pressure is up, or I'm at risk for diabetes. It's been something physical
Mm-hmm.
that then signifies like something is going on because the level of stress has been chronic for so long, it starts to impact the body. And
Yeah.
often it takes something physical to slow us down. I wish that wasn't the case, but it is. It takes something physical or something serious to slow us down enough to say, maybe I should think about this.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, y'all, let's just do a little quick check in, little wake up call here. Before something happens, let's be aware enough of ourselves to notice what's shifting, right? And I think we get into the habit of shoulda, woulda, coulda when the thing shows up. Oh, we should have been eating better. We could have taken a vacation. We didn't mean to do that, but we're already in a deficit mindset by that time, right? I tell my clients all the time when they start saying should, like, let's stop shoulding on ourselves and let's just be proactive, right? Like, once you should on yourself, you got to change your diaper. Let's just be proactive about what we would love. Developing a vision is always going to be the mantra of this platform, but the vision is not wishful thinking. The vision is a higher frequency of living that we can actually hold ourselves to as the calibration of our day-to-day life. Dr. RJ has been really clear that sometimes overachievers people who are really dynamic in what they do just need a recalibration on a day-to-day basis. So, Dr. RJ, for people who are just joining us, when we get to that recalibration or when we're ready to institute a new practice in our lives, what's a good recalibration question?
Ooh, a good recalibration question is who, not how.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a
And
little more.
so
Yeah,
so what I mean by that is, I'll just tell you a story. I love stories.
we love
Okay.
story time over here. We're ready.
Oh, good. So I like to stay physically healthy just because I want to be, when I'm 65, I want to be hiking and strong and alert, right? So I stay physically healthy for my mental health. So I go to the gym a couple times a week. I may take a stroll around the neighborhood at sunset. And then I noticed, I'm like, I'm getting a couple extra rolls, right? I was like, something's happening. What is this? What is this role thing happening?
Right.
And so, who, not how, I'm like, let me just get a professional. So I got a trainer. And so, long story short, that's what all people say when a story really is long.
Great story.
Long
Really.
story long. The first day I started with my trainer, I'm like, he's trying to kill me. I go to the gym all the time. Why is he trying to kill me? Well, it's because when I was doing it alone, I stopped at the point of discomfort, right? I did what was familiar. I did what I liked doing, what I enjoyed doing, and I limited myself every single day. And it was
Wow.
cool for a while until the roles started showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what I mean by who, not how, we can spend a whole lot of time trying to delve into how this happened. But what's better is getting a professional then to guide you on the right path to just get this thing going. We don't have a whole lot of time to try to figure all of this out ourselves. Not as high performers. Time is just, we can't get it back. It's invaluable.
Exactly. Right. Right. And I think that's the biggest myth out there, right? Which is why we have to wait on something to act upon us. Y'all, the biggest myth is that you think you have time.
Yeah.
If we've learned anything from the last couple years of social unrest, the global pandemic, and infodemic, is that we don't have time. We don't have time to waste. We don't have time to be living in regret or shame. We don't have time to not be pursuing the thing that is in our heart to do. We don't have time to say yes to things that don't grow us, right? So I'm gonna raise my hand and just be like, girl, I was in the roll club too. I didn't know what was happening. And people would be like really shocked to be like, no, Crystal, you're a dancer. No, I'm in my 40s. I used to dance a whole lot. And now this is residual strength. I gotta now do something with the residual strength to keep a level of maintenance, right? Maintenance and care are two very different things.
Yes.
And so y'all, you got to be intentional about asking better questions. Dr. RJ, one of my mentors from years ago, Liz Lerman, has taught me this years ago. She said that you turn your discomfort into inquiry, right? So it's not what am I not doing? It's what can I do, right, to be better, right? And it's the same advice that you're giving us about reframing the cynicism.
Yes.
I don't want to sit and be like, oh yeah, now look at me. This is what happens when I work and nobody cares about mommy and no one's over here. No one's going to look at me. And people just keep telling me that I look okay. They don't know the standard I'm holding myself to. Right? All the negative stuff rather than who can I call to help me get the results I would love. Right.
Yep.
So we get to this point by something on the outside acting upon us. We get to this point by not allowing ourselves to ask better questions. We get to this point by driving ourselves to the same capacity that we think success looks like. And then we end up in a place where your clients call it something, our clients call it stuck. Right? And stuck usually means that we're at an impasse where we don't feel like we have any choices. Right? When you think about burnout, what is the choice that most people are facing to either continue down that path or to get out?
Often people see it as two extremes, like you said, continue or quit. And for high performers, quitting is not an option. Like we just don't quit. And so we just continue until we burn out, until we can no longer do it, until our quality of life is just all the way down to a point where every day is a struggle. And
Mm,
so there's always a middle path.
yeah,
There's always a
yeah.
middle path. It doesn't have to be quit or keep going. It's okay, how do I work in my area of strength, in my
Mhm.
zone of genius, and the other areas that you addressed, the what are your areas again?
Oh yeah, the health and wellness, love
Yes.
and relationships, time and money freedom, Vocari. Yep.
How do I incorporate all of those areas and then be whole? Because it
Mhm.
doesn't fit on this end of doing the most, and it doesn't
Right.
fit on the end of quitting. So
Right.
there's a middle path where the real high performance happens, and that's where we're whole.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. And I just want to say, y'all, it doesn't mean that you give anything up.
Mm-mm.
Right. There's an amazing quote from someone we had in the Steps and Stages community before who was talking about the third yes. You
Ah,
can say yes to this, you can say yes to this. And it is that middle passage, that yes that maybe we haven't even believed was possible, that configuration of yes that becomes our greatest strengths and our greatest reality. And we actually get to do that by design and not by default, because the high achievement for some of us is a default. We're just so used to doing the most. Quitting is a default. It just feels like the only way to get out of the escape room, right? Like, how are you going to get out of here? I don't have another answer, right? But how do we build a life by design? And again, we want to think about having a complete vision of a person you are and a life you would love living, rather than trying to go full speed ahead in one area and losing track and perspective of the other parts of your life. Dr. RJ, you've written an amazing book on burnout. Tell us a little bit about it. We're going to drop the link in the chat below, and then we're going to answer questions if people feel free to post their questions on any platform.
So, thank you for asking. Executive Burnout is hot off the press. I think it's a perfect time for it. And it came out of experience. So, I kept seeing over and over and over these patterns of burnout in high professionals. So, I said, well, let me reach as many people as I can by talking about it, by
Mhm.
addressing it, by putting it right in front of us. So, what we talk about is 7 reasons why high performers crash and burn before reaching their full potential.
Wow.
And that's, I mean, it's a quick read. It's something that you can read on a flight, on your vacation that you should be taking. It's something that you can read at these practices you're waiting for your kids at. All of these things, get it done, read it, take notes, and then implement, because the implementation is the most important part of the book.
Yeah, that's amazing. 7 reasons why high performers crash and burn, right? And your reasons could be very different, but I guarantee you that something about your experience is in the pages of this book. One of the key things I see in many of our clients who find their way to us is that they've done all the right things. They got a vision board, they do the thing, they do it right, but they haven't actually integrated the board into their practice of life. Right. And so when Dr. RJ is talking about implementation, y'all, we call it quick obedience here at Steps and Stages, right? We like, listen, if coach said it, let's just try it. What's the worst thing that can happen, right? Say yes to the task, get it done, get some data, and then see what happens in your life. The other part of this is that nobody grows alone. And while you may be right now in a place of isolation, of pre-burnout, of skepticism, there's a story out there that's very similar to yours. Here at Steps and Stages, we believe that no one changes alone, so we actually grow in community. Once you pick up this book, once you find yourself in the pages of it, and once you've kind of, I don't know, diagnosed is a little bit of a hard word, but like once you can see yourself, right, have a bigger awareness of the things you might be doing that are leading you to a deficit, you want to next figure out someone, the who, not the how. You don't want to try to fix yourself, but you want to figure out a person who can walk alongside you as one of your partners in believing, to get you to the next stage of your evolution. We are here to grow. We're here to grow together. And if you can walk hand in hand with someone, it'll make the journey a lot less arduous. Dr. RJ, what's another question we can ask of ourselves before we look at how to know if we're almost at our wits' end, almost at the edge?
I really think the audience should look at how you feel at the end of the day.
Mm,
So there's a difference between being good and tired, like, oh, I'm good and tired. I had a good day, or just so exhausted that you just crash on the couch because you have nothing left to give. So, a
yeah.
question to ask yourself is, how am I feeling on average? Because some days are good, some days are bad, no big deal. But on average, how do I feel at the end of my day?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one, y'all. Good and tired is not exhausted, frustrated, and depleted. It's very different. Let's just give those things some words, right? Like if you're on the couch and you're like, I can't even talk to anyone, like your kids are like, mommy, mom, anything like that, that's just like blank stare. I can, and from personal experience, I've been on the edge of this, pulled up in the parking lot of the job the next day and wanted to throw up in the parking lot. Right. So, like, let's just be clear. Some of those symptoms we got to pay attention to. We don't need a high blood pressure and blood work to
Mhm.
check on that. We know that that's not right. Right. Listen, if you're ready to take the next step to develop a life by design and not by default, we are currently enrolling for our next Vision Builder cohort that begins on September 12th. We have an amazing community of people who help visionaries grow. You're meeting some of them right now. Dr. RJ is one of our community. But what you also want to know is if you're one of these high performers who's right there on the edge and you think, oh, well, maybe I don't want to wait till it's too late. I want to make a decision right now. Get the book, Executive Burnout. Go through those 7 steps, go through those 7 inclinations, see if you see yourself in those pages, and then find someone to help you find a bigger version of you to get you unstuck and free in your own gifts. This has been Wisdom Wednesdays for almost September. We'll see you next week in September. Thank you, Dr. RJ, for
Been a pleasure.
all the pearls of wisdom. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you here. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone on every platform, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this. And if you haven't scheduled your free vision call with the one and only Coach Crystal, I look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you, Dr. RJ. This is Wisdom Wednesdays. We'll see you next week.